Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core studio. Welcome to the show. So, being a Magic player today is kind of complex in many ways because there's so many different products and so many different formats you can play, and yes, so many different IPs now that are a part of Magic the Gathering, like it or not. And when it comes to that, well, giving players another option in case they, well, like the design of a card, but not necessarily the IP that it's from, or maybe they just want to keep all the IPs as Magic as they possibly can. It's nice to have an option for that, and thanks to Wizards, there are options for that. If you haven't seen my episode on the proxy problem, make sure you check that episode out, because Wizards is fine with proxies for Commander. It is a non-tournament format for non-DCI sanctioned events, I should say. So yeah, if you haven't seen the episode, make sure you check it out. I redid the Marvel Super Drop with the Proxy Promise, some brand new Magic IP, quote-unquote, inspired cards. And of course, you don't have to pay exorbitant prices on the secondary market for them. They are free. You can just print them out yourself. These cards are 100% free. You can print them out yourself and build decks around them. And yeah, if you're not a fan personally of, say, well, these cards from the Jurassic Park integration, then sure, you can actually, really enjoy the Commander designs. There's some really cool Commander designs in this, but if you don't necessarily like these, well, at some point I'll be doing a proxy promise on that. When it comes to the Assassin's Creed cards as well, a lot of really cool Commander designs around there, but if you're like me and you're not really a Universes Beyond fan when it comes to other IPs in the game that you're playing necessarily, then yeah, you might have ignored a lot of the really cool designs that are out there, because there are some really amazing commanders from this product, but not necessarily for me or some other players out there that actually want to build around that because of that. So yeah, proxy promise on this one as well at some point. The one for today, though, Fallout. I decided to go big for this very first one outside of the Marvel one that I did, which actually I think also included like Tomb Raider as well and D&D. It was kind of just dipping the toe in the pool with that one, and some people in the comments below were very excited about it. Many people were very excited about it, and actually kind of reminded me that, oh wait, what about this product? What about this product? What about this product that we don't have actual, Magic IP inspired cards from? So, with that said, again, there are a lot of amazing commanders from this, and yeah, if you're not a fan of Fallout, like I played like I think one day of Fallout 4, I think, and it wasn't necessarily for me, so I don't know a lot of the mythos or the characters, and I don't really want to build a deck necessarily around one of these characters themselves, but I do like the mechanics, I do like the designs. Let's jump into the Proxy Promise. Let's jump into these free cards that you can download right now and print off yourself, whether at home, your library, your FedEx, Kinko's, or wherever you're going to be printing these off. Yeah, Wizards is fine with proxies, so go for it. And again, when I say Wizards is fine with proxies, I mean for non-tournament, non-DCI sanctioned things. So yeah, Commander, casual Commander, yeah, at your LGS, with your friends, there you go. It's completely fine to have a proxy card like Jinx Starforge Broken Protocol. More of a Magic IP inspired card, which is based off of, and you can see at the bottom of this, and I pointed this out in the previous episode where I went over the Marvel ones. At the bottom of the card, you can see the set, which is XUB, which means not UB, not Universes Beyond. And then next to that, Mr. House President and CEO, that is the actual card's name if you need that reference for either yourself or someone. That is the actual card's name from the Fallout product itself. But this is, again, on the right side, you can see Proxy Promise. This is the actual proxies that you yourself can just use if you, like me, are not necessarily a fan of the Fallout look and feel and you rather have a more Magic look and feel type card like potentially this one. So a 0/4 artifact creature human for 3 mana in red, white, and a black. Whenever you roll a 4 or higher, create a 3/3 colorless robot artifact creature token. If you rolled a 6 or higher, instead create that token in a treasure token. 4 tap, roll a 6-sided die plus an additional 6-sided die for each mana from treasure. Spend to activate this ability. This is a really cool design. I love it. But again, when it comes to like the Fallout commanders themselves, I gotta be honest, like I kind of ignored them for the most part, and I know a lot of other players out there did too, and the Assassin's Creed ones and the Jurassic Park ones, because yeah, when it's not necessarily, something that really appeals to you because it's in Universes Beyond, it's not something that is Magic IP, it's something that's kind of outside of that. It's something that just kind of is on the edge of kind of your periphery, at least mine. I'm like, okay, like I can see some of those. I mean, I think about it at some point, but then I kind of just either forget about it or just ignore it at some point. So if you've been looking to play around this commander, this design, make sure you check it out. Again, I'll have the link to the Dropbox, which you just click, or continue to download only. Do not try to, you don't have to request access for it. I get a lot of people try to request access. You don't need access to it. You can just download the actual PDFs and print them out as well. Moving on, Ravina of the Silver Pact, a 3/2 human mercenary for 3 mana. And Rakdos, first strike, haste. Whenever it attacks, create a treasure token, sacrifice 5 treasures, gain control to our creature for as long as you control Arena. Activate owns a sorcery. This one's based off of Kellogg Dangerous Mine from Fallout. And yeah, it's a really cool design. Again, attacking, making treasures, utilizing those treasures kind of as like payment for services. So yeah, like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come over to my side? You're a mercenary too, all right? So make a bunch of treasures, take your opponent's creatures, and utilize them against them, but only at sorcery speed. Next up, we've got Xylar, Terror of the Swarm, a 3/3 insect mutant with flying for 4 mana. Insult die. Whenever Xylar enters or attacks, each player gets a rad counter. Whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, put a counter on each of up to X star creatures with X the number of non-land cards milled this way. So this is a, well, kind of card that actually likes to attack, enter the battlefield quite a bit, and get a lot of rad counters out there, making sure that players are milling quite a bit and being punished for doing so, and then also getting a lot of counters on your creatures as well. So going wide can help you out too. Moving on, Mira Stonehelm the Trueborn, a 4/4 human soldier for 4 mana in Mardu. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, choose 2. Create 2 1/1 red and white soldier creature tokens with haste that are tapped and attacking. You draw a card and you lose 1 life. Mira Stonehelm deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. A lot of great options with this one, and I guess I should have read the last one, sorry, on that one. I think that was the Wise Mothman. This is Caesar, Legion's Emperor. So this one is, again, a commander where, yeah, when you're attacking, you can utilize your creatures. Maybe you've got some creatures you actually want to sacrifice. You can go super wide by making a lot of soldiers. You can get some card advantage, or you can just dish out a lot of damage by having a lot of creatures in play, a lot of creature tokens in play. So it can be a very aggressive, very fun deck. Try getting lifelink on this one. Maybe even, I don't know, infect on this one. Could be quite fun. Moving on. We've got Zarvok, the Twisted Juggernaut based on Agent Frank Horrigan. An 8/6 trampling mutant warrior for 7 mana in Golgari. It's got indestructible as long as it attacks this turn. Whenever it enters or attacks, proliferate twice. So a lot of cool things can be done with this one. Again, basically getting this out and just getting aggressive with it. Swinging. This is a 3-shot KO, very easily into a 2 or even 1-shot KO with some double strike potentially. It's also protected when in combat, because it's indestructible if you attack this turn. That's nice. So on top of that, being able to use and abuse proliferating for, you could go Planeswalkers if you want. You can go with counters on this. You can go with even charge counters. You can do a lot of different kinds of cool things with this kind of a commander, and it's a very, very big body again as well. Moving on. Urexa, Weaver of Nightmares, based on the Master Transcendent, a 2/4 legendary artifact creature mutant for 4 mana in Sultai. When it enters, target player gets 2 rad counters on it, or two rad counters, I should say. Tap a dark creature card in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under control. It's a green mutant base card toughness 3/3. So, milling opponents and getting a lot of exciting and spicy creatures from their graveyards. That can be quite fun. Of course, some untap effects can really help you out this one as well. Moving on, Dr. Thalen, Sage of the Eternal, a 1/4 human doctor for 4 mana in Azorius. Tap, draw a card, then discard a card, put a quest counter on it. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an artifact or human spell from your graveyard with mana value less than or equal to the number of quest counters on Dr. Thalen. Yeah, you are in 2 great colors when it comes to tapping and untapping. I guess I should mention really quick, Arcade Ganon is the card this is mentioned off, or this is based off of. So basically, utilize this as a great looting effect for you again and again and again and again. Tapping, untapping, going through your deck, getting a lot of cool things in your graveyard, getting some great artifacts in your graveyard, maybe proliferating potentially as well, and then getting a lot of great things out of your graveyard because, again, during each of your turns, you can actually cast those, so maybe some flash artifact speed can really help you out as well. Next up, we've got Tyra Wildspark, Unseen Creator, based on Sean, Father of Synths, a 3/4 human scientist for 5 mana in Izzet. Whenever you attack, you may create a tap that attacking token that's copy your target attacking legendary creature you control, other than Tyra Wildspark, except it's not legendary, it's a Sith artifact creature and its other types. When it leaves the battlefield, exile synth tokens you control. So yeah, getting creatures that are, again, legendary attacking creatures in play and saying, you know what, maybe they've got some great ETBs, maybe they've got some great LTBs, getting copies of them and utilizing them in some really exciting and powerful ways. And yeah, keeping Tyra Wildspark in play can be quite beneficial to you too, again, so you don't lose those synth tokens. Next up, Corvin, Ghoulshroud, Corrupted King, based off of Raoul, Troubleshooter, a 1/4 zombie mutant rogue for 3 mana in Dimir. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from 1 cards in your graveyard that were milled there this turn. Tap each player mills a card. So being able to utilize this to get more things in your graveyard can be great. And again, being able to get things out of your graveyard on your turn, be able to cast those spells, your graveyard is basically an extension of your hand in that way, and you can do some pretty spicy things, or just kind of, replaying certain things again and again and again and again. You can do a lot of really good things with this kind of a commander. If you're able to keep getting those things back into your graveyard, you can do some really cool things. And I do want to mention as well with these, if you do notice any mistakes on the translation of the card from the Fallout version of the card to this one, if I copy paste error, or I think the example previously was like on the Iron Man card, I forgot to put that it was an artifact creature. So make sure you let me know in the comments. Well, a lot of you have been very helpful with this and very supportive of the Proxy Promise project. Next up, we've got Karnak, Conqueror of the Depths, a 7/7 mutant berserker with ward 2 for 6 mana in green. Enrage, whenever it's dealt damage, you get 3 rad counters and put 3 counters on Karnak. You gain life rather than lose life from radiation. So, being able to be aggressive with this, yeah, you most definitely can be. You want this one to actually get dealt damage quite a bit, so some fight mechanics can be great with it. Just get it out there. Maybe some lure effects, forced combat blocking, absolutely. Get a lot of counters on this, gain a bunch of life, and utilize mill to your benefit as well. This one is based off of Strong the Brutish Thespian. Next up, we've got Fiora Sinvale, Architect of Despair, based on McCready Lamplight Mare, a 1/3 human advisor for 2 mana in... I was going to say Dimir right there. In Orzhov, whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks again, Skulk until end of turn. Whenever a creature power 4 or greater attacks you, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Being able to get a lot of low-to-the-ground creatures out there and make it so that they're near unblockable depending on what your opponents have in play. And also being able to just sit back and say, you know what, opponents, you got your big creatures in play. You might not want to swing at me, or I'm going to be actually draining you for quite a bit. So it's a really good kind of like pillow fort / flying men strategy, low to the ground creatures, getting aggressive, maybe some combat damage triggers in there as well. Next up, Alina, Singer of the Celestial Fates, based off of 3 Dog Galaxy News DJ, a 1/5 human bard for 3 mana in... Oh my goodness, Boros. Whenever you attack, you may pay 2 and sacrifice it, or attach to Alina, Singer of the Celestial Fates. When you sacrifice it, or this way, for each other attacking creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that aura attached to that creature. So, being able to say, you know what? Hey, let's sacrifice an aura and get some other auras attached. Yeah, just attach it to everything. Spread that around. Get a lot of value out of your auras. Instead of being just one, you can just get a lot of them instead. So a lot of value to be had with this one a lot. Moving on! Bernard, Champion of the Flame, based on Ian the Reckless, a 2/1 human warrior for 2 mana in red. Whenever Bernard, Champion of the Flame attacks, if it's modified, you may have it deal damage equal to its power to you and any target. Yeah, this is a bit risky, but that is 100% a really cool effect. And also, of course, if you build around it, you've got plenty of ways to mitigate that damage. Well, oh, you just give it lifelink, and there you go. You give it lifelink, and all of a sudden, it's gaining life when you're hitting yourself, and, again, any other target that you're having it deal to. So, being able to actually just say, okay, I swing, it's modified, it's got equipment on it, it's got auras on it, whatever it's got on it counters, it's got to be hitting for a ton, and all of a sudden, it's hitting again. And, of course, I'm going to be protecting myself and insulating myself, and even gaining life when it is doing so. Next up, Astra, Veilstrike, Shadow of Alessi is Lessie. Oh my goodness. Based off of Desdemona, Freedom's Edge. There we go. 3/4 human rogue, Vigilance for 4 mana in Boros. Whenever Astra, Veilstrike attacks target creature card in your graveyard that's an artifact, or that card has mana value 3 or less, gains escape until end of turn. The escape cost equal to its mana cost plus 2 other exile cards from your graveyard. So being able to play cards out of your graveyard again, make it into a second hand that can be great. And again, this is a commander that does have Vigilance, so you are allowed to just say, you know what? I can be aggressive with this, and I can still keep it back for defense as well. Of course, I'm going to want ways to protect it, maybe get indestructible, some way for it to get through, like flying, etc., etc. But yeah, being able to utilize your graveyard as a second hand can be absolutely huge. Moving on, Deep Claw, Terror of the Toxic Abyss, made off of Red Death Shipwrecker, a 1/3 crab mutant for 2 mana, and is it? Tap, go target creature to opponent controls. That player draws a card. You add red. Again, you are in blue, so you've got plenty of great untap effects to utilize this one again and again and again and again. Goading your opponent's creatures, making them do your dirty work for them. They are going to be drawing cards, but you can also maybe utilize that to your advantage as well. Punish them for drawing those cards, or maybe draw when they draw as well. And also, you are ramping with this as well when you are doing so. You are getting that extra mana. This is a very kind of like control-y mana dork in a way, and you can do say a lot of exciting things with this one. Next up, Nexara, Advisor of the Eternal Rot, based off of Hancock Ghoulish Mare, a 2/1 zombie mutant advisor for 3 mana in black. Each other creature you control that's a zombie or mutant gets +X/+X, where X a number of counters on Nexara, Advisor of the Eternal Rot, and it's got Undying. So this commander is difficult to deal with again. If you've got ways to manipulate that counter when it comes back into play after it died, if you can remove it, you get a -1/-1 counter on it to cancel it off. All of a sudden, you are able to keep getting it back into play again and again and again and again. And of course, if you are able to get other kinds of counters on this as well, yeah, you can make it so your army is absolutely massive. Again, it doesn't have to be +1 counters. It counts any counters on Nexara, so utilize it in the way that works best for you to pump your team. Moving on. Torix, Strategist of the Eternals, based off of Overseer of Vault 76, a 3/3 human advisor for 3 mana in white. Whenever Torque or another creature you control with power 3 or less enters, put a quest counter on Torque. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you move 3 quest counters from among permanents you control. When you do, put a counter on each creature you control, they gain Vigilance at the end of turn. Yeah, this is, again, a low to the ground commander. Hey, whenever this or other small creatures come into play, you get quest counters. Use proliferating type effects, get more of those on there, and all of a sudden, remove those quest counters, pump your entire team, and give them vigilance so you can swing out and keep them back. Some low to the ground, go wide strategies with this one can be great. Moving on. Zephyr, Hunter of Eternals, based off of Dogmeat Everloyal, a 3/3 dog for 3 mana in Naya. Whenever Zephyr enters, mill 5 cards and return an aura equipment card from your graveyard to your hand. Whenever a creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, create a junk token, which is again an artifact that you can tap and sacrifice. Exile top card of your library. You play it this turn, activate it as a sorcery. So basically, impulse draw. So being able to actually utilize a bunch of auras and equipment, being able to get those cards out, being able to actually say, you know what, let's get some creatures in play, let's actually equip them up, get a ton of junk tokens, and utilize those tokens to fantastic fashion for some great impulse draw, some great temporary card advantage. You can do a lot of fun things with this one. Moving on, Morgana, Blade of the Cursed, a 4/2 human knight for 3 mana in Orzhov. Creature tokens you control have training. So again, that means basically whenever a creature token you control attacks with another creature with greater power, you get a counter on that token. So basically, you got bigger creatures attacking, those get counters, and this can build again and again and again. On top of that, sacrifice other creature, Morgana gains indestructible until end of turn. A great way to protect it absolutely throughout the game. So build up your army, go wide, protect Morgana, maybe even utilize some aristocrat style strategy things in there as well. Some benefits that you can really take advantage of. It's a great sacrifice outlet for you too. And this one is based off of Elder Arthur Maxon. Moving on, Leora Voltara of the Dark Nexus, a 2/3 human scientist for 3 mana in Jeskai, based off of Dr. Madison Lee. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy. Tap, pay an energy. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample and haste till turn. Tap, pay 3 energy, draw a card. Tap, pay 5 energy, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Being able to get a lot of energy. My goodness. Again, anytime you're casting artifact spells, you're going to be casting quite a few of those. Maybe even recasting certain ones. Get a lot of them out, bounce them back to your hand, play them again. Have a lot of cost reduction, get a ton of energy, proliferate for that energy as well, and then draw a ton of cards, maybe with some untap effects. Utilize that trample and haste, and also, yeah, cheat certain giant things for your graveyard back into play as well. A very cool design. Moving on. Alacrus, Mind of the Endless Blight, based off of Jason Bright, Glowing Prophet, a 2/3 zombie mutant advisor for 3 mana in blue. Whenever a zombie or mutant you control dies, if its power is different from its base power, draw a card. Pay 2, sacrifice a creature, put a counter on target creature you control, gains flying until end of turn. Being able to say, you know what, let's go wide with zombies or mutants or both, get a ton of them out there and just adjust their power ever so slightly. this is an amazing draw engine for you. And of course, you can sacrifice those creatures as well. Utilize them to give creatures, well, counters and also flying, be able to get them through. Do a lot of exciting things with this one. Moving on, Jaina, Warden of the Red Fields, based on Paladin Elizabeth Taggarty. A 3/2 human knight for 3 mana in Boros Battalion. Whenever Jaina and at least 2 other creatures attack, draw a card. You may put a creature card mana value X or less from your hand on the battlefield, tap that attacking, where X is Jaina's power. So yeah, go wide, at least wide enough, to have, this trigger, and essentially get that trigger, get something massive into play, once you get some actual, power on this creature, and also keep drawing cards, get a lot of things into play, cheat them into play, sneak attack essentially, again and again and again. Of course, extra commons can go great with this one, a very cool design. Next up, Draven Steelhand, the Unbroken, based on Preston Garvey Minuteman, a 4/4 human soldier for 5 mana in Naya. Beginning of combat on your turn, create a green aura enchantment creature token named Settlement, attached up to 1 target land you control. It has enchant land. Enchant land has tap, add 1 mana of any color. When Draven Steelhand attacks, untap each enchant permanent you control. My goodness, I love this design. Being able to get some auras on your lands, which allows them to actually just tap for whatever you want. It can perfectly fix your mana for you, but of course you can utilize other auras to enchant your lands, other things to enchant your permanents, and all of a sudden, everything you have that's enchanted is going to be untapping. So utilizing lands, utilizing any creatures that have tap abilities, utilizing anything that is enchanted that has a tap ability, you can do a lot of cool things with that one. Moving on, we've got Brenna, Keeper of the Emerald, a 4/3 human ranger for 4 mana in Boros, based on Cast Hand of Vengeance. A vigilant creature that says, whenever Brenna or another creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return any number of aura cards that were attached to it from your graveyard to the battlefield, attach to our creature, then attach any number of equipment that were attached to that creature. My goodness, that is a lot of value to be had. Again, utilizing auras, the downside of auras being mitigated with this, utilizing equipment, and basically saying, you know what, let's get those things into play, and maybe we can even force those deaths that happen, so we can actually move those around when we need to. A lot of exciting builds can happen with this one. Next up, Darian Blackcoat, Terror of the Keep, based on Butch Deloria, Tunnel Snake, a 2/2 human rogue with menace for 2 mana in black. Whenever it attacks, it gets ++1 until end of turn. For each other rogue and or snake you control, pay 1 black, put a menace counter on a target creature. It becomes a rogue to other types. Being able to actually just go wide with rogues or snakes, of course, can be great with this one. It's already got menace. You've got other ways you can get it through as well. If you give it flying, that's usually enough to get through with flying and menace. Sometimes menace is good enough as well because the opponent doesn't want to give up 2 creatures because you're going to make this thing absolutely massive throughout the game. And of course, helping your other creatures get through with menace as well. You can do a lot of exciting things with a rogue or snake or both base strategy around this one. Moving on, Alina Sunstrike, Core's Protector, based on Sentinel Sarah Lyons, a 4/4 human knight with haste for 5 mana in Boros. As long as an artifact entered under control this turn, creature control at +2/+2, that is a massive bump effect and very easy to trigger. Battalion, whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, Alina Sunstrike deals damage equal to the number of artifacts you control to target player. Being able to go super wide in artifacts, get a lot into play, maybe even go artifact creatures, and then swing, all of a sudden you're dishing out a ton of damage to someone. Give this lifelink, give this, again, you could graph that exoskeleton, give it infect, but yeah, damage doubling, damage tripling, a lot of exciting ways to take advantage of something like this. Moving on. Mina Dawnfire of the Undying, based on Colonel Autumn, a 2/3 human soldier with lifelink for 3 mana in Orzhov Exploit. So when it enters, you can sacrifice a creature. Other legendary creatures control of Exploit, that is amazing. Whenever a creature control exploits a creature, put a counter each creature you control. Be able to get creatures in play and immediately sacrifice something else. You can get a lot of value out of that. And keep in mind, they actually can sacrifice themselves. So there are certain creatures out there, certain legendary creatures that might have a very good death trigger that you want to get right away. Yeah, utilizing those in some specific ways, you can do some very crazy things with that. Have creatures come to play, sacrifice whatever you need, and then maybe reanimate a bunch of them too. You can do a lot of cool things with this one. Yeah, a really cool design and a really interesting take on Legendary Tribal. Next up, we got Sable Greycloak, Seeker of Lost Truths, based on Piper Wright, Public Reporter, a 1/2 human detective for 2 mana in blue. Whenever it deals combat to a player, investigate that many times. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a counter to a creature you control. Yeah, make this massive, find ways to get it through, hit hard, and all of a sudden, make as many clues as you could want, essentially. Get so many clues out there that you can actually utilize in different ways, based based on cards that care about the number of artifacts that you have, based on cards that care about, well, when you're sacrificing artifacts, and being able to take advantage of that card draw as well. Maybe you're draining opponents when you draw those cards. Maybe you draw extra cards, etc., etc. Yeah, and of course, when you're sacrificing them, getting some counters on things. Maybe Sable, of course, so you can actually hit even harder. Absolutely a fun commander. Moving on. Nixa, Warlord of the Ruin Waste, based on Lily Bowen, Raging Grandma, a 0/0 Mutant Warrior Vigilance for 4 mana in green. When it enters with 2 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of counters on Nixa if its power is 16 or less. Otherwise, remove all but 1 counter from it, and then you gain 1 life for each counter moved this way. So being able to get more and more and more and more counters on this, that can happen quite quickly, and all of a sudden, well, you get it to a certain point where then you lose those counters and you gain life. But of course, you can utilize that life gain in so many exciting ways, in game-ending ways too. But yes, being able to turn this into a heavy hitter very, very, very quickly, and of course, maybe even utilizing something like Double Strike to ensure that you can take your opponents out. Absolutely a very fun commander. Give it trample, give it evasion, give it ways to get through to take out your opponents. Moving on. Serena Daybrook, Protector of Hearn, a 4/3 human citizen, 4 mana in red that is based off of Duchess Wayward Tavern Keep. It says, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on it. Pay 1, remove a quest counter from a bird you control, create a junk token. So being able to actually get creatures, get low to the ground evasive creatures out, swing through, get some damage out there, and get quest counters on your creatures, then proliferate, utilize those quest counters to make more junk tokens to get you more cards. Absolutely a fun strategy. And of course, take advantage of when you are getting those junk tokens into play or sacrificing them. Plenty of great pinging effects. Other kinds of benefits can happen from getting artifacts into play. Moving on. Zayden Grimhall the Forbidden, based off of Marcus Mutant Mare, a 4/4 Vigilant Trample Mutant Advisor for 5 mana in Simic. Whenever a creature control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card if that creature had a counter on it. If it doesn't, put a counter on it. Low to the ground evasive creatures. Flying Men strategy can be a lot of fun with this one. Get those creatures down. Get those creatures swinging. Get counters on them if they don't already have counters on them. There are plenty of ways just to get counters on all your creatures. Plenty of great ways, especially in these colors. And all of a sudden, you're going to be drawing an absurd amount of cards. Or, yeah, if they don't have those counters, get counters on them so next time that you can. So yeah, a lot of cards to be drawn with this. A lot of counters to be utilized. Proliferate as well to get even more counters on them. Hit even harder. It's a really fun commander and a really fun build. Moving on. Captain Alar, Shield of the Legion, based off of Aradesh, the Founder, a 1/4 human soldier with Enlist for 3 mana in white. Enlist again means, as this creature attacks, you may tap a non-attacking creature you control without summoning sickness. When you do, add its power to this creature's until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control attacks, if it enlisted creature of this combat, the creature that attacked gains double strike until end of turn. If that creature's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. Being able to say, you know what, let's get some other creatures in play to help out, add their power to this one. Maybe ones that say have a downside, or maybe ones that say, well, yeah, you can get out with power, but you can't really attack with them, or maybe they're very not able to actually get through, like this one, where you actually kind of build this one up and you get a bunch of different equipment on it, you get a bunch of different ways for it to get through, and then you hit so hard to get that double strike, one-shotting opponents out of nowhere with this one power commander, and of course drawing a card while you are doing so. Moving on. Galen, Protector of the Iron Keep, based off of Craig Boone, Novak Guard, a 3/3 human soldier for 3 mana in Boros. Reach lifelink. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, put 2 quest counters on Galen. When you do, Galen deals damage equal to the number of quest counters on it up to 1 target creature, unless the creature controller has Galen, deal that much damage to them. So being able to get out there, again, get aggressive, swing with creatures, get those quest counters on this, and of course, being able to build those up over time can be great just with attacking, but also you can proliferate to get even more of those. You can take out creatures, you can take out players with this, you can use doublers, you can use triplers. A lot of exciting things can be done with this one. And of course, you have that life link. You're going to be gaining life that entire time. So yeah, building some life gain synergies there too. Next up, Brina, Swiftblade of the North, a 1/1 human warrior for 2 mana in Gruul. It has indestructible during your turn, which is quite nice, being able to protect it. When it attacks you, defending player, each draw a card, then you discard a card, put 2 counters on Brina Swiftblade. If you discarded the card, the highest mana value among those cards, or tied for the highest. So, yeah, maybe get some big cards in your deck, get some big creatures, some big effects, and essentially say, hey, a player over there who is actually, has a low-to-the-ground spell-slinging deck, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to hurt you. We're actually going to each draw a card, and I'm going to have a larger card that I'm discarding. So all of a sudden, I'm getting this larger and larger and larger. I am being able to hit you quite hard with that and being able to utilize those cards in very exciting ways. Yeah, you have a lot of ways you can take advantage of that card draw, a lot of ways of taking advantage of those counters, double up those counters, have a lot of different cool things with it. This one, again, is based off of Kate, Cage Brawler as well. Moving on. Janala, Duskcoil of the Forge, a 3/3 Human Artificer Rogue for 3 mana in red with Menace, based off Veronica, Dissident Scribe. When Janala attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you discard one or more non-land cards for the first time each turn, create a junk token. Yeah, again, that's each turn, not just your own. So on your opponent's turns as well, discard cards, utilize free discard outlets, or just utilize some cantripping effects, essentially. Looting effects more so, I should say, or rummaging effects. Being able to actually, take advantage of that and take advantage of getting those junk tokens into play. Playing cards whenever you need to play them. It can be a great, great thing. Veronica, Dissident Scribe, it's a really cool design. And again, Janala, Duskcoil of the Forge. Yeah, it's a really cool direction. Moving on, Varnock, Branch of the Blighted Wilds, a 3/3 Treefolk Mutant with Vigilance and Reach for 3 mana in green. When it dies, if it was a creature returned to the battlefield, it's an or enchant with Enchant Forest you control. Enchant Forest has tap at 3 mana, 1 color. You get 2 red counters. Varnock loses all their abilities. So this is a card that says, you know what? I am the ultimate ramp, essentially. Being able to say, you know what? My forest now, instead of just tapping for 1, taps for 3. I get a lot of value out of that. I can utilize untap effects for that land as well to get even more value out of that. Yeah, I might lose some life here and there with those rad counters. Yeah, I might mill myself, but I can actually utilize that mill to my benefit. And of course, that loss of life, I can mitigate that in many ways, especially with the amount of mana that I'm going to be getting from this. This one's based off of Harold and Bob First Newmans. Moving on. Valen, Steelgeist of the Neon Citadel, based on Paladin Dance, Steel Maverick, a 3/3 Synth Knight, Vigilance, and Lifelink for 3 mana in white. Exile it. Each creature you control that's an artifact or human gains indestructible until end of turn. A great way to protect your team, to protect your artifacts. Get this in play. Utilize it as a commander to just benefit the rest of your team, to protect your team, and to protect your situation. You can do a lot of cool things with this. In turn, basically any board wipe that you might have into a one-sided board wipe that just wipes out your opponents, keeps your things in play, and you say, yeah, I'm good to go. And then you get your commander back out for another protection. Moving on. We've got Tessa Goldleaf of the Village Heart, based on Moira Brown, Guide Author, a 2/3 Human Citizen for 3 mana in Boros. When it enters, create a colorless equipment artifact token named Wasteland Survival Guide with equipped creature gets +1 for each quest counter among permanents you control, and equip 1. Whenever you attack, put a quest counter on target non-land permanent you control. So you can do a lot of cool things with this one. Again, get those quest counters out there, proliferate, and all of a sudden, this guidebook can actually just pump a creature so much, can be the most valuable piece of equipment on the board, turning anything out there to a huge heavy hitter. So yeah, utilize it on creatures that maybe have double strike, maybe have ways to get through, maybe have a way to, benefit from the amount of damage that they're doing or their power. Moving on. Cedric Blackblade of the Endless, based on Elder Owen Lyons, a 3/3 Human Knight for 4 mana in Azorius. Artifacts you control of Ward 1. Whenever enters or dies, return to our artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. You are in 2 colors that have amazing blink effects. So blink this one again and again and again. Utilize artifacts out of your graveyard again and again and again. There are certain low-to-the-ground artifacts that you want to keep getting back to be able to recast, to maybe get in play, to sacrifice. You can do a lot of cool things with this one. And again, your artifacts are protected in some way again with that Ward 1. So it's a little annoying for opponents when they're trying to target things. They're like, gotta pay extra mana to do so. And then you probably have ways to sacrifice them and just get them back anyway. So you can do a lot of cool things with this one. Take advantage of artifact ETBs, activated abilities, LTBs. Lots of cool directions for this build. Next up, Velra Synthshade Glitch Tracer, and this is one, and this is where, again, I would love your help in the comments below. Make sure you catch me on things like this, where there is a mistake on this card. I will be updating it, and yeah, if there's any mistakes on the other cards, let me know as well. A 2/2 Synth Detective that is an artifact creature for 3 mana in blue. Can't be blocked except by artifact creatures, and it does say whenever Nick Valentine, which should have been replaced with the name Velra Synthshade, so that's my fault on that one. My apologies, I will be fixing that. So the actual PDF in the description below will, actually have the right one. Anyways, or another artifact creature control dies, you may investigate. And this score card is, of course, based off of Nick Valentine. Just a copy-paste error there. So, yeah, being able to get through on a lot of opponents again, because a lot of opponents aren't going to have artifact creatures. Being able to actually have your creatures out, get a lot of artifact creatures out, maybe even sacrifice them so you can investigate, make some clues, utilize those clues in exciting ways. A lot of great artifact synergies. Next up, Kessia Dawnspire of the Eternal Cause, based off of Sierra, Nuka's biggest fan. A 3/4 Human Citizen for 4 mana in white. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on Kessia Dawnspire, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, target creature control gets +X until turn with X number of quest counters on it. So again, get quest counters on it, get creatures through, and all of a sudden get a lot of proliferate effects on this one to actually get those quest counters up, and all of a sudden get a lot of food tokens, being able to get those foods out, utilize them when you need to, pump those creatures when you need to. You know, a lot of cool things with a build like this. Moving on. Orin, Shield of the Endless Storm, a 2/2 human soldier for 4 mana in Rakdos. When an Orin enters, each opponent sacrifices a 10th of the creatures they control. Round it up. Whenever opponent sacrifices a creature, put a counter on Orin. So this is a great ETB to use and abuse. Being able to do so maybe with some Bane Death type effects, sacrificing it, bringing it back, sacrificing it, bringing it back. You can do a lot of cool things with this one, decimating your opponent's creatures, and yeah, making Orin quite massive. Next up, Selene Skystrike Imperial Ace, a 1/3 human pilot with flash for 4 mana in white, enters destruct to one target legendary permanent that creates controller creates a junk token. This can be the bane of Commander's existence, just destroying things here, there, and everywhere. And of course, giving you advantages when you do so, again, making that junk token. This one is based off of Commander Sophia de Guerre. Next up, we got Helix, Architect of the Metal Mine, based off of Eddie Lonesome Eyebot, a 2/1 Ledger Artifact creature robot with flying for 3 mana. Whenever you attack, if the number of attacking creatures is greater than the number of quest counters on Helix, put a quest counter on it. Pay 2, sacrifice Helix, draw a card, then draw an additional card for each quest counter on. And that one needs to be updated as well, and I will update it on Edie. It should say Helix right there as well. So yeah, a way to essentially, again, attack, get a lot of value out of that, and get a lot of card draw on it when you are ready to go. Again, my apologies for the slight mistakes on some of these. There were 52 commanders, and it took a long time to put all this together, as you can imagine. Anyways, Lumi, Guardian of the Nexus, a 1/3 robot that's an artifact creature for 2 mana, based on Curie Emergent Intelligence. When it deals combat to a player, draw cards equal to its base power by paying 2 mana in total, exile target artifact you control. Lumi becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except that as whenever this creature deals combat to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. So again, although this might be tiny, it might be little tiny, that's okay, because all of a sudden we can get other artifact creatures in play that this can become and hit incredibly hard with. So by doing so, we can draw an absurd amount of cards with it, and of course take advantage of those cards that we are drawing in many different ways. Next up, Nova 12 Alloyed Realm Enforcer, based off of Rose Cutthroat Raider, a 3/2 Ledger Artifact creature robot with first strike for 4 mana in red. Raid at the end of combat on your turn. If you attack this turn, create a junk token for each opponent you attack. Whenever you sacrifice a junk, add a red. So being able to get a lot of junk tokens in play, you can get a lot of value out of this, again, basically making them into like mini ritual effects as well, on top of them being great sources of temporary card advantage for you, so you can take a lot of advantage with this. Next up, Xiron 8 Sentinel of the Lost Epoch, based off of Cogsworth Handy Helper, a 2/3 Ledger Artifact creature robot for 3 mana in white. Commanders you control have Ward 2, so this would have Ward 2 with your commander. Tap to add tap to add white. Spell only cast aura and or equipment spells. Tap attach target aura equipment you control, target creature you control, activate as a sorcery. So maybe get some equipment out there that, well, maybe have a huge equip cost, and you're like, I don't want to pay that. Utilize an untap effect potentially to do that more than one time in a turn, and move auras around to wherever you need to move them around as well, on top of this just being a great mana dork for them. Moving on, Colossus 7 Bringer of the Abyss. This thing is huge. Based off of Liberty Prime Recharged, an 8/8 Ledger Artifact creature robot for 5 mana in Jeskai, Vigilant Trample Haste. When it attacks or blocks, I should say, sacrifice unless you pay 2 energy. Yeah, it's going to cost a good amount of energy to keep it going. That being said, it is worth it because you can pay 2 and tap and sacrifice artifact, get 2 energy, draw a card. So build that energy up, proliferate, get energy in other ways, and of course, hit incredibly hard with this 8/8 Vigilant Trampling Hasty Colossus 7. Next up, Vexer the Unstable Circuit, based off of the Motherlode Excavator, a 5/5 Ledger Artifact creature robot for 5 mana in red. When it enters, choose target opponent, you get an amount of energy equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. When it attacks, you may pay 4 energy. When you do, destroy target non-basic land if any player controls. Creatures that players control that flying can't block this turn. So this can be a good way to, well, maybe even just get through with an army on an opponent, because a lot of players out there do have non-basic lands. So being able to do that, you can get a lot of value swinging through at your opponents. Next up, we got Syra 8 Harbinger of the Collapse, based on Yes Man Personal Securian. This is a 2/2 legendary effect creature robot for 3 mana in white. Tap target opponent gains control of Syra 10. When they do, you draw 2 cards and put a quest counter on Syra 10. Activate only during your turn. When Syra 10 leaves the battlefield, its owner creates a tap 1/1 white soldier creature token for each quest counter on it. You can do some pretty fun things with this one. You can just politic with this one. You can go group hug with this one as well. But yeah, you can actually maybe even just seal it back in certain ways too, so you can make sure you get the most value out of it. And then we got Bite, Hunter of the Fragments, a 2/2 legendary effect creature robot dog for 3 mana in Azorius, based off of Rex Cyberhound. When this deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy. By paying 2 energy, 2-star creature card in a graveyard, exile a brain counter on it, only at sorcery speed. Bite's got all active abilities of all cards with brain counters on them. In exile, yeah, that can be a lot of value to be had. Utilize amazing creatures, especially because you've got some great loot effects in blue. Get creatures into your graveyard by discarding, some massive ones out of your hand, putting them in your graveyard, getting that energy counter, and all of a sudden, yeah, giving the abilities to Bite so you can utilize some really cool different effects. Finally, draw in Pioneer of the Infinite based off of James Wandering Dad, a 2/4 human scientist for 3 mana in blue. Follow him as the adventurer part. X blue, instant speed, investigate X times. You can also, when this is in play, tap for 2 colors, spend mana only activate abilities. So you can utilize a lot of cool abilities in this kind of a deck. And of course, go clues, go in a direction that includes both as well. Again, there are a lot of amazing commander designs in Fallout, and like me, you might not be aware of some of them just because Fallout's not your thing. So if more of a Magic IP-centric approach is what you're looking for when it comes to commander cards, consider actually looking into, again, that Dropbox link in the description below. 100% free for you to just download the PDFs and actually, just print some out, at your house or at, FedEx or wherever you print them out, library. I mean, I guess the printing might not be free because you got to pay for the ink or, printing them themselves, but downloading this is actually just free. Yeah, you can just do it and actually print them out. Make sure you ask your play group first when it comes to playing with proxies, but again, when it comes to playing with proxies, I have personally never met one commander player that is not okay with that, so yeah, make sure you're asking ahead of time, but yeah, enjoy. I hope that you enjoy these. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Comment below with your thoughts on it, and of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.